Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It's Friday. Happy Friday. Look who I've managed to pull together for a little Friday afternoon stream. The trio of death. What was it? What we used to call each other? The trio of doom and gloom. Or,
the trio of negativity, wasn't it?
Trio of negativity. That's what it was. Yeah, back in the day. Yeah. Well, we're back. Yeah. And hopefully I think there's going to be some contrasting takes today. I think there's going to be a lot of difference of opinions, but we're going to try and keep it civil. I'd ask you to keep it civil in the chat. It's Friday. The sun is hot and the room here is boiling, and I'm a big boy, so I don't like, stresses. Oh, hang on about. My mum's calling me. Sorry. Anyway, before we get into it, how the devil are you, Henry? Welcome back on the channel. You okay?
Yeah, well, good, mate. Looking forward to tomorrow's game. Burnley's going to be an interesting one, and yeah, I'm glad to be back on the channel. It's good to see Savva as well. Everyone's well in the chat, and hopefully we've got some good subjects to talk about.
Savva, I'm going to ask you how you are. Then I'm going to put on a press pause. So I've got to answer this call. She's calling too many times. 1 second. How are you? Okay?
Yeah. Go on, pick up to your mum. You only get one. Yeah, good. I'm good. I'm enjoying just dipping in and out, having a little vent, and then not worrying about it not worrying about getting any messages in the background. No one's got any access to me unless they've got my phone number. So, yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, it's weird seeing you not on the channels, like going onto YouTube and seeing you're not live or you haven't put out a video. It's kind of like you go onto YouTube, the homepage, and you see like the usual lot. I put content out. I'm not used to seeing Football Heritage TV hasn't put out a video or isn't live, especially with the transfer window coming up as well. I mean, that's going to be absolutely hectic for us.
Well, I mean, look, I tell you what, it's very. We speak obviously away from YouTube. I'm a lot more relaxed and enjoying life without it. I still dip in. I still listen and watch some shows. And yeah, listen, I'm enjoying. I'll tell you more than anything, without actually enjoying the games, I'm enjoying sitting down to watch a game and not worried about, right, what am I going to say afterwards on a YouTube show. So yeah, it's all good. And hopefully Sean's answered the call now from his mum. And
I'm going to choose the first subject because I think Sean's had to dip out.
Go.
Would you know what? I don't know what in order Sean's got subjects planned. I want to start with Burnley Saturday. Yeah. Obviously, Villa dumped out of the Conference League last night. Yeah, 5 goals scored by
that, guys.
the forward. Tottenham obviously got Burnley. They're fighting for their lives. I'm pretty sure if they draw or lose, they're down. Mm-hmm. Can you see a world, Savva? Sean, I've just decided to roll over the first subject. Can you see a world in which we don't beat Burnley? Because let's be honest, we are in absolute horrendous form, but they are a diabolical side. They were the better team at Old Trafford, probably. But if we don't beat Burnley, I think that's the first time since 2003 we've lost 5 Premier League games on the bounce. Do you see a world in which we don't come out with 3 points?
No, I've been really vocal all week in WhatsApp groups that I'm in. WhatsApp group that I'm in. I think we will. I think we'll beat them comfortably tomorrow. And you know me, I like a caveat. I think if we don't, then there's real concerns. All right, you can say, all right, Chelsea are still Chelsea away. Arsenal going for a title. Who else we played in there? Newcastle away is a tough game. Liverpool away is tough. I can't find an excuse for not beating Burnley at home at all. So for me, I think the players, they've got to bounce back, right? Just for more than anything, pride. I hate saying that normally.
I think we'll put 3 or 4 past them, because if you look at Sheffield United at home, we struggled there. Yeah, 2 last goals in the dying parts of that game. Luton at home, I think we were 1-0 down until the 75th minute. There's been a few games at home where we've won kind of at the death. Brighton was another one where I think Brennan Johnson got a 95th minute winner. I don't think Tottenham will go and score. I said on League Judges yesterday that I think we'll win 2-1. I don't think it's going to be an easy game, because we know their game plan. They're going to park their defensive line on the penalty area. And traditionally this season, we've struggled to break down low blocks. That's what I think will happen tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know. Listen, wouldn't it be nice though for the last home game of the season? Is it? No, sorry, penultimate. Sorry, I keep forgetting we got Man City. Wouldn't it be nice though for the penultimate home game of the season to stick, to stick 4 or 5 goals past somebody and really have a convincing win where we're not hanging on in the last minute or we're not having to come back from 2 or 3 down. I think it would be really nice, if anything, for the fans. But if we start slowly, which we have, I mean, inevitably for the last sort of 5 months or so, we've really been a second half team. So, look, I think it's more about them tomorrow than us, Henry, if I'm brutally honest, because the pressure is all on them. Essentially, the chances of us making Champions League are that, right? So all the pressure is on Burnley to stay in the Premier League. They know a draw isn't good enough. Does that put them in a conflicted mind of, right, do we go all out and attack Spurs? That's what I would do. If I'm the manager of any club, I go out and attack Spurs because we can't defend for toffee. I would go out and attack Spurs.
But with pragmatism, right? You let us play into their hands, lose the ball, dispossessed with a high press, with a pressing game, and then pounce. Let me ask you this, guys. We'll come to the Burnley game in more detail towards the end. A couple of things that Savva just said there. And by the way, sorry I had to jump off for a second. It wasn't even important, but it had to be answered apparently. And but yeah, smash the like button on the video if you enjoy it. Get over to Henry Wright or Henry Talks Football. I think I put Henry Wright TV in the link. I should have put Henry Talks Football.
Whatever one you want.
And Savva doesn't have a channel anymore, but he's, like I say, he's streaming more than ever. Great to see him. Guys, I hope you're all happy and healthy doing the things you love. Do hit the subscribe and like and all that stuff. Keep the comments going. I want to ask you guys about the kind of last couple of games of the season. First question is, there's more tickets available, according to what I've heard and what I've seen from Barry. Barry always does the ticket and like the amount of things on the exchange. There's more tickets available on the exchange going into the Manchester City game than there has been for any other game this season. It's also the last home game of the season. Is that a sign of the disinterest in the Man City game because we think we're going to lose, or we don't mind losing anyway in all likelihood? Is it because it's a Tuesday night, or is it some demonstration of the apathy towards the end of the season and the football that we're playing? I'll start with you on that one, Henry.
I think it's because of the performances and the recent results. If we had won our last 4 games going into that Man City game, I guarantee it'd be a sellout. It doesn't help that lot down the road are going into probably the last 2 games of the season, and Man City have got to win their 3 games. So that's kind of putting a bit of a downer on us. But in terms of our recent performances, we just have been tactically outclassed in terms of in-game management, substitutions, performances. Going into, I reckon if we were to lose to Burnley, I reckon you wouldn't even see a 75% at that stadium against Man City. I'd go as far to say you could probably see close to 10,000 on the exchange if we were to lose to Burnley. Because let's be honest, as much as we've got a great record against Manchester City, in Pep Guardiola's career, in the last 10 games when he's going for a Premier League season, he slipped up twice. Bearing in mind, this guy's won 10 league titles. He slipped up twice. They've just got this knack of grinding out results and winning games. And the likelihood is, even if we do beat Burnley, they're going to beat us. So I don't blame a lot of the fans for not wanting to go on a Tuesday night. Probably going to be raining like anything. Doesn't matter if it's May. It's going to be probably pissing down. And there's a good chance that we could get hammered 3 or 4-0. So I'm not surprised. But if you're Daniel Levy and you're looking at that, and you're thinking, last home game of the season, and there's hundreds, if not thousands of tickets on the exchange, for me, that is massive warning signs. That's a bit that alarm bells would be going off in my head, because I guarantee you Sheffield United last game of the season against us will be a sellout. Guarantee you that, even though they're already down. So
yeah, true. That's true. Just last question then, and let me stick to you on this. I'll just get you, because the second part of the question was going to be, and I'll come to Savva for both questions. In a world where we do beat Burnley, do you think then the tickets will get taken up? And do you think that, the Tottenham fan base in part will still want us? Because obviously before we play, Liverpool play Villa. And if Liverpool go and put 3 or 4 past Villa, or do a bit of damage on the goal difference, then the next game is Tottenham City. Assuming Arsenal beat United, do Tottenham fans pivot towards, we're only 4 points away, a point against City, and then beating Sheffield United, and then hoping that Palace beat Villa? There's connotations there. Or do you think that Tottenham fans are still like, there's too many needs to happens for us to?
Yeah, it's too many.
The biggest elephant in the room is the Arsenal game, the Arsenal Championship.
There's too many if buts and maybes. Like, even if Arsenal have apparently got Tomiyasu and Saka out this weekend, I still expect them to go and score 3 or 4 goals at Old Trafford, because they are diabolical, that Man United side. Probably the worst Man United side we've ever seen in the Premier League in terms of performances. They are. Even if we beat Burnley, I still think a large portion of the fan base would happily watch us get stuffed by Man City in order for that lot not to win the Premier League. It doesn't help when you've got
if United beat Arsenal or if United get a point against Arsenal,
help, mate, is you've got Spurs Army, Spurs Express, and the Daily Hotspur tweeting out to their hundreds of thousands of followers a Man City badge with a Tottenham logo in the middle of it. That's probably not going to. That's not going to help the masses whatsoever. If we beat Burnley, Liverpool beat Villa, surely, like, in the back of your mind, you'd be thinking, hang on a minute, but it's Man City. We're as much as we'd want to beat Man City, I just don't think we're good enough at the moment. But I don't think it changes. If we go and beat Burnley 5-0, I don't want Arsenal winning the league, because that we will never at the end of it, mate.
All right. Savva, I'll reverse engineer it, mate. So first and foremost, if there was a chance that United get a point against Arsenal, tomorrow, is it tomorrow or Sunday, whenever it is?
Sunday, yeah.
And we beat Burnley, and Villa then lose to Liverpool. All three of those things might not happen altogether, but it's a possibility. In that scenario, do you then want Tottenham to take on City and give it absolutely everything and see where the chips may fall, see where the cookie crumbles?
Yeah, look. Loads of people have been talking about this for weeks. All my Arsenal mates messaging me going, do you want City to beat you so we don't win the title? And Sean, my response is always the same. I don't think it matters whether we want Spurs to beat City or not. I don't see any chance in any way, shape or form that Tottenham lay a glove on Manchester City. We look...
we got a point away. We got a point from them away from home with the weaker team we got now.
We keep saying it was a weaker team, but that weaker team when we had injuries was performing better than this team that we've got now. But that's another story. The difference is there's a difference between playing Man City in December and playing them when they've got 3 games left to win a title. There's a huge difference. Tottenham are. Look, I don't want to get too deep into this at the moment. I'm sure we'll talk about it later. Tottenham are a mess. Whatever way we want to look at it, 4 defeats in a row. Our form over the last 25 games is worse than Everton's and Bournemouth's and Chelsea's, and we're in a mess. People don't want to see it because of the brilliant start to the season. So look, I'm not having a dig at Spurs. What I'm just saying is I don't see any way in which we beat Man City, whether or not we turn up and play our best, because all I ever hear from people is, we've had good results against Man City. We've beaten Man City. We're their bogey team. But in all those games when we were their bogey team, we put 10 men behind the ball and counter-attacked.
Yeah, different time, different era.
This is not that. And Man City will, let's be fair, look, Liverpool should have scored 10. Yeah, Man City, I've got a feeling, will be exactly the same as that game. We might grab a couple of late goals when teams drop off, but I can't see... I can't see that it matters, if I'm brutally honest. I think more chance we've got as a fan base for Arsenal to not win this league is Man United to turn up. And they do every now and then, don't they, against these bigger teams? They do. So that's where I think it is.
United have got a fantastic record against Arsenal, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then the last part, before I think Henry wants to bring something up on the screen, but just to reverse engineer, do you think the fact that there's a load of tickets available on the exchange for the last game of the season, do you think that is a demonstration of a little bit of apathy towards the way our season's panned out? Or do you think it's just, it's May, there's not much to play for, it's likely going to be a struggle anyway, and it's a Tuesday night game and it's going to be hot maybe or rainy or whatever, and it's going to just a bit of an effort, a bit long?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably a little bit from each column, right? But more than anything, I think you have to ask yourself, don't you? We've seen we're in dreadful form. I think we've lost 5 or 7. When we've lost those games as well, we're getting absolutely pumped with goals. Is there that much to play for? I know there's the slimmest of Champions League chances, but for me, I think that's probably why people are thinking this season's done now. I don't know. I can't speak or attest to anybody else. But if you offered me a ticket for Tottenham, Man City, at the moment I wouldn't want to go because I wouldn't want to go and just see my team get pumped. But that's me. That's just
fair enough. What are you bringing up here for me, Henry? What's going on? What's going on with this?
This is just what Spurs Army have tweeted out, saying that if Newcastle lose to Brighton or Chelsea lose or draw to Nottingham Forest, practically guarantees us Europa League if we beat Burnley. So if Chelsea are away to Forest, they're fighting for their lives. I think they need practically one more point and they're staying up anyway. But if we beat Burnley and these other scenarios happen, 99.9% of Spurs fans would happily lose to City because we're practically guaranteed Europa League anyway. So I just wanted to
unless Villa lose to Liverpool and Arsenal lose to United, and then City, we can beat City and they can still win the league. You know, it's still that situation.
As I said, what we want is
in the background, you see those algorithmic kind of like the algebra equations coming down, trying to figure out the connotations. Like for sure, if something good happens between United and Arsenal and Liverpool and Villa, and one of these two teams or both of them lose as well, then we've got a free hit. You know, you might as well go beat Man City. If you lose, you still finish fifth. If you win, City can still win the league and Tottenham can still finish fourth. And then good things are going to happen.
You know the perfect scenario?
Yeah, go on.
The most perfect scenario would be Man City to beat Villa 6-0. So their goal difference is even and they play the same amount of games. Man United beat Arsenal. We draw with City. City beat West Ham. Man City win the league and goal difference. Villa lose their games and Tottenham get Champions League. That would be the perfect scenario, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, 100%.
If Arsenal lose that Man United team, that's worse than us losing to Burnley. Because they are at the moment. They've conceded more shots on goal than Sheffield United.
Where are just quickly, sorry, before we move on from that point you just made there, Henry, where is Newcastle Brighton?
At Brighton.
Okay.
Actually, I could be wrong on that, actually. Didn't
Newcastle go down to was it at Brighton last season when Kieran Trippier had a row with his?
Oh, tell a lie. It's St James's Park.
Is it St James's Park?
Man United away Wednesday night.
See, I fully expect Newcastle to win their game this weekend.
Yeah, they're going to put 3 or 4 points.
Chelsea are currently on a run of 2 defeats in 17. I don't know. They seem to have turned a corner. If they win, look, let's be fair. As fans, we shouldn't be worrying, should we, about what Newcastle and Chelsea do when we've got Burnley at home. Let's be brutally honest. There can be no excuses. You've got Burnley at home. Yes, they're fighting for their lives, but come on, man for man, this should be a game, hopefully, where we go in at half time, 2-3-0 up, and you go, we're done. That's what it should be. They are.
When is the last time we've gone in to a game this season 2-0 up at half time?
No, we haven't. I was going to punch some numbers earlier and go, how much? Like, what's the goal difference, first half versus second half, in 2024? And I bet you it's something crazy. Like, we probably scored about in the whole of 2024 since January the 1st. I reckon we probably scored 8 goals in the first half and conceded about 35. And I reckon in the second half we probably scored about 20 and conceded about 2. I don't know. I've made those numbers up, but I reckon it's a massively stark difference between our first half versus second half. You know,
well, we seem to wait till it. Well, I say wait, or teams seem to be going 2-3, 4-0 up against us with regular ease, and we seem to wait for them to drop off before we then decide that, you know, because everyone can play when there's no pressure, right? When you're 4-0 down, there's no pressure to play. The question is, can we come out tomorrow and just play from the start? Can we go? Do you think
that's on the players or Ange? Because that's happened twice this season where we've been 4-0 down to Brighton and Liverpool, and then all of a sudden we've gone, right, let's play some football now and scored a couple of goals.
Only Newcastle away it didn't happen, did it? Only Newcastle away we were just beaten by the better team throughout.
I don't think it's on the players or the manager, Henry. I think if you're 4-0 up, naturally your urgency goes. Because if you notice, when we got the 2 goals back against Liverpool, notice how their urgency went back again. And they started having more and more and more shots. I just feel it's natural. When you go 3-0 down, 4-0 down, as a player, my concentration levels, you know, unless you're a City for example, naturally you take your mind off it a little bit. But can we start tomorrow on the front foot? You know, like the Harry Redknapp teams did. They'd come out for the first 10 minutes, pummel the other team's back line. That's what I want to see. That's really what I want to see tomorrow against Burnley.
Let me pivot the conversation, guys, to what the title of the show was, right? Backing Ange this summer. I did a video earlier on today. I think we spoke about it, Henry. I think you might have done something similar with your video this morning. I haven't seen it though. And me and you spoke about it with Lee and Dan yesterday, where we do this kind of like comparisons around what's going on with Arsenal, what's going on with Tottenham. And there's a lot of kind of potential similarities. To me in the video, a lot of people are going to disagree. I think maybe Savva, you may as well, that I think that if you zoom back to the end of the Conte period and that transition when we were out of managers and we had Stellini and stuff, all of us, I mean, Savva, I remember talking with you on your channel, every day, talking about philosophy and ethos and moving towards, like, stop with the pillar to post, stop with the transition from one manager that does one thing, another manager, because you're left with square pegs in round holes. And we finally kind of got what we wanted. Whether or not Ange is the guy that is the right guy, leave that to debate. But in terms of the pivot towards the right philosophy, playing attractive football, possession-based, front foot, that kind of thing is what we've been given. And hopefully he, for me, is the first. I don't think he'll be here in 3 years' time. He's never anywhere for 4 years. But hopefully for me, he is at least the foundation, the cornerstone of a permanent shift back towards a continuation. And if you do give the guy what he needs to let it play out, whether he works or not, if the next managerial cab off the rank is of a similar mindset, a similar philosophical approach, then you would hope that the majority, there's always going to be some need to change players for the right guy, for the next guy. So there's always going to be turnover, but you'd hope that 70% of the squad that Ange will have will fit into the next guy's system as well. And so I hope, I don't know if you disagree, but so for me, people that are saying he's not the right guy, I think it's too early to tell. I don't think it's a fair judgment when this season's been so up and down and injuries and disruptions and one game a week and all that stuff. For me, I want us to give him whatever is available in the budget, whatever is available after sales. I want him to get what he wants. Now, he said in the press conference today that all of the work around what we need has been ongoing. There's no pivot away from that. Like, they know what they want. They've identified their options and they're going to be working on it. So that's good news to me. But do you think that this guy should get, I'll start with you, Savva. Do you think that Ange should get everything that we need and whatever he wants, he should have final say? If 5 players are presented to him that are available and that might be a deal, do you think that the club should give him final say on everything and pick the guys, even if you don't think he's the guy? Is it the necessary first step in hopefully a long 10-year, 20-year version of consistent philosophy? Does that make sense? I'm a bit of a long question.
No, it makes complete sense. Look, I agree. Look, we had loads of conversations about that. This isn't about one manager, right? This isn't about just getting a manager that plays this way. Then all of a sudden you sack Ange and you bring in
Tuchel, right?
Tuchel, who plays a completely different way, right? That's not what this is about. We'll disagree, as you know, when we WhatsApp. We'll disagree slightly on what Ange's philosophy is. I don't think it is this nice front foot football. I don't think his football's good at all. I think we look really, really void of any ideas and look very poor creativity wise. But that's me. I like the possession aspect of it. I see that, and hopefully when the next manager comes in, I don't know when that will be. With Spurs, it's just putting your finger in the air, right? You never know. We've had so many managers. Hopefully the next manager can continue with some sort of philosophy in the same sort of way, but without the complete ignorance and negligence towards countering the opposition and actually trying not to concede goals. To move to your point about should he be back? Listen, all the while a manager is here, you have to back him. It doesn't matter. That's not Tottenham Hotspur. That's any football club, right? You have to.
Sorry. Okay, let me rephrase it then. If you don't think he's the guy, if Tottenham were to go on a terrible run and lose to Burnley, lose to City, lose to Sheffield United, for example, and go on a 7-game defeated loss, would you be on board with Levy pulling the trigger on getting rid of him now and then getting someone else in, even if it does maintain the same philosophical approach? Yeah. Would you be okay with changing the guy who is in charge of the philosophy that we're trying to promote?
Look, I think if we're playing the hypothetical game of Spurs lose the last 3 games of the season, then that's eight defeats from our last 9, 8 defeats from our last 10 games. That'll be 8 defeats, 1 win, 1 draw. I'm going to put this out there right now. I don't care who you are as manager.
It's not acceptable.
I don't care what phase or stage you're in. If you lose 8 of 10 games and you are Tottenham Hotspur, you have to go. So I don't think that will happen, by the way. I truly believe we're going to beat Sheffield United and Burnley. I don't think that will happen. But I've got to caveat that because people will just go, "Oh, Savva said this."
No. Look, I hear you. I'll make sure that's not the case. But even in a world where we get 4 points out of the next 9, 6 points, but the performances are awful. Do you believe in Ange? Essentially, do you want this guy to be the guy that promotes our front foot possession-based football?
Do I believe
you want to say no, but the reaction, I get it. Yeah.
No, I'm not. Sean, after I switch this off, no one's got any way of cussing me. I haven't got any social media unless they've got my phone number. It don't matter. Look. For me, would I sack Ange now? No. Right? Do I trust Ange right now? No. There's 2 very different things. For me, what I need to see, this is me. This is Richard Savva, right? This isn't, I'm not speaking on behalf of a channel, on behalf of a fan base. I'm speaking on behalf of me. What I need to see and what I've been really disappointed in, Sean, is what we've witnessed is this complete inability or complete lack of change, this complete unwillingness or ability
stubbornness
to change anything, right? So I don't mind when a new manager comes in, you're going to have up and downs. We said at the beginning of the season, and I said, if I can see clear progress from a manager and I can understand what they're trying to do and their system and I see what they're doing and the players are buying into it, then yes. The problem is, Kuva made a great point the other day. I'm going to steal this from Kuva, guys, right? Had Spurs had started the season how we're playing now, and finished the season how we started it, and the trajectory was going like that, I'd be saying, okay, we're learning. The problem is,
like Chelsea and Pochettino, right? Right.
But the problem is, we're not even doing this at the moment, Sean. Our form in the last 25 games is that of Everton.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I said to you, who are you taking from Everton's team? I mean, you might have a couple of people that would chuck out.
Amadou Onana.
Right, okay. So you might have someone who chucks out 1 or 2 from an 18, 19-man squad. But my point is, that's where we are at the moment. That's what he has shown me, that after that brilliant start, what he's shown me is there's no change. There's no tactics changing. There's no adaptability. So for me, that's what I think he's got to work on in the summer. He's got to, moving into next season, we need to see that when we play teams, that it's not just our game. We're not City. When you are Man City, you go and play your game. Everyone else worries about them, right? Because they are that good. Every now and then Pep will mix it up, but let's be fair, everyone worries about playing City. At the moment, we're trying to do that. We don't play anything like a team like Man City, and teams are going, well, this is easy. Fulham stuck 3 past us. Newcastle stuck 4 past us. Since Fulham beat us 3-0 with ease, I think they've won 1 in 8 or something like that, 1 in 7. But they play Spurs and it was an easy day. So look, for me, I think it's got to change. Is he the right man? Next year is going to tell me if he's the right man. What I've seen this year, I've not seen anything to suggest to me that he's like what you said, Sean, that this is just somebody coming in and is the first phase,
getting the foundation,
laying a foundation,
yeah.
And then a better manager comes in. Because at the moment, we're seeing a guy who still thinks he's playing in the Scottish Premier League. No disrespect. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm seeing from his tactics. The last thing I'll say before you bring in Henry, you don't go to Anfield and play that kamikaze, suicidal high line and stick Emerson Royal on Mo Salah. You don't do it. You just can't. You sit back 10 yards deeper, sit in and say, this is a wounded Liverpool. They're at home. Just sit. But we didn't. And we should have been 5-6-7-0 down. So I just think things have got to change from that aspect.
The only thing I'll just quickly, I'm going to bring Henry in because there's a whole bunch of things I want to ask Henry on the back of what Savva said, and also get your own take on the Emerson Royal performance. Everyone threw the guy, even Ange basically kind of said, yeah, he's not a left back. He shouldn't have done, whatever. But I actually thought, I know he was at fault for the 2 goals that we went 2-0 down, but I actually also think that Emerson Royal kept the scoreline at 4 when it could have been 8. I think he made like 3 absolutely sensational blocks or taking off the toe. I think he got I know he's obviously, you have to take them all into a consideration, and ultimately goals were responsible from his poor positioning, but I also think he did okay in other areas of the game. I got a little bit I want to protect him a little bit.
3 of the 4 goals, Sean.
I know. He had a mare.
Look, it's not his fault.
Like I say, it could have been 6 of 7 goals if it wasn't for him doing well in other situations.
it could have been, but for me, I think in that game, I'm not. Sorry, Henry. Just quickly, I'm not a big lover of ever removing Van De Ven from our centre backs because of his pace.
Same.
But for me, I think if you're in that game, you're going to Anfield, right? You drop 10 yards, stick Dragoshin inside along Romero, and tell them you're not playing a high line. Van De Ven at left back, and say keep up with Salah. But we didn't, and I think Liverpool honed in on that.
I hear you, mate. I hear you, Henry. Yeah, mate. Basically, the same sort of question to you. Like, is Ange? I'll let you just go with it. Do you back this guy with every penny that we have? Do you, if he puts out 4 or 5 players and the scouts say, our recommendation is that we go and get Goodmanson, or we go and get Hiroki Ito, or we go whatever, and Ange says, no, actually, I don't want those. I want the guy that I think I can work with the most is Conor Gallagher and whoever, XYZ. Does the club have to lean into this guy? Have you seen enough from this guy to go, it's more than about foundation? This guy is we're going to wait and see, but for now, you have to let him have what he wants to be able to judge him fairly.
Before I get to that, I want to quickly add something on the Emerson Royal thing. When you saw, Thomas Tuchel is a tactician, right? He doesn't play unbelievably beautiful football, but when he comes up against a dangerous winger, for instance, Bukayo Saka, he put Guerrero and Davis on that left-hand side to double up on him. We should have done something similar against Mohamed Salah. When you leave Salah exploited against Emerson Royal in a 1v1 situation, Salah's probably going to win 9 of the 10 duels against him. With Ange, what doesn't help us, and I don't think people are looking at this, is we want to play a high pressing, or the Gargan press as it's called now, attractive style of play, which gives us the pool of players is a lot smaller. Then you think Brighton, Leverkusen, Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Real Madrid at times, Barcelona, also play a similar style of football, which puts the pool of players even smaller. So unless we have an absolute elite scouting network, bringing in gems from like a City pluck out an Alvarez, right? Or a Troyes pluck out a Savio. Unless you're bringing in players like that, it's going to be very difficult for Ange Postecoglou to really succeed at Spurs. Because let's be honest, and I don't want to be negative here, or I guess you could say constructive. We don't have and haven't had an elite scouting network in the history of this football club. Like, the only time we've had a proper scouting network was when Michael Edwards was here, because his role at a football club is I run everything, you just coach the team. And that's what Liverpool are going to do now with Arne Slot. I think Ange, you look at the run of games you're on right now. I just brought up that Arteta losing streak. I think he lost 6 of 10. He lost to Burnley. He drew Southampton. He lost to Everton. He lost to Tottenham. He lost to Wolves. He lost to Leicester. He lost to City. He lost to Villa. That is a diabolical run for Arsenal. And he got them down. He got them their lowest ever finish in a Premier League season. Not once, but twice they finished 8th. I don't think Tottenham fans could sit there for that potential outcome to actually see the rewards of what they're doing now. Is he the right man for Spurs? We're not going to know unless we give him the players he wants. If we go into next season with this squad, without fixing the set-piece problems, with this personnel, this group of personnel, when I honestly believe we've got the worst front line we've had since 2007. Like, you think of that 2008 to 2012 period, we had Berbatov, Jermaine Defoe, Robbie Keane, Lennon. After that, we had Gareth Bale, Kane. Right now, our front line is absolutely woeful, mate. And I know, if Ange Postecoglou is managing this group of players next season, he's never going to succeed. because you need actual quality in multiple positions. Like, look at the run of games we've had recently, right? We've been hammered by Newcastle, but we've also hammered Newcastle this season, right? We've been hammered by Fulham. We've also beat Fulham this season. We've been hammered by Chelsea at home and lost them away. Our season is constantly like this. There's absolutely no consistency. And the only way you're going to get that consistency is if you back him. I would give Ange the tools to do the job, but this isn't we're not going to chuck 200 million quid at it and then be successful. It's going to take probably another 6 to 9 months of actually understanding what Ange ball is.
How many more windows do you think? How many more windows? Sorry to interrupt, mate. Sorry, finish your point. But how many more windows do you think you have to give him in lieu of the volatility that I still believe is going to happen next year? I don't think that suddenly, you've got a disruptive summer, right? You've got the Euros, you've got the Copa de America, you've got the Olympics, you've got our tour. Our bloody tours are so. I know they make money, and I understand
Australia, mate. 3 days after the end of the season.
Listen, I'm all for building the fan base. There's a load of Australians that watch this channel. Shout out to you guys. I like my best 2 years of my life were in Australia, and I recognize your desire to see your club, your team, in the face. But in terms of just like, I'm on board. I get it. You have to do it. It's a global brand. I get it. But in terms of disruption, is it disruptive? You can't argue that it isn't. Going to Japan as well, certainly disruptive. Is it necessary? Maybe. Does it make money? For sure. But is it disruptive? Yes. And so the summer is going to be one of those things where how much is really going to get fixed? How much time is there going to be when you factor in the different international tournaments, all of the players that are going to, have to juggle between the start of the window, June 30th and otherwise? I don't necessarily think that there's that much is going to improve between now and September the 1st or August the 15th. So even if you do get a new nucleus in, there's still going to be time. And I think the next season is going to be volatile. I agree. So, how much time do you give Ange to figure it out?
I mean, you look at some of the players who got coming back from loan. I mean, Ndombele is still going to be here. We're not going to rip that contract up. We're not going to, get rid of the 10 million quid or whatever it is. A lot of these players are still going to come back. That doesn't necessarily mean you can't critique Ange Postecoglou for our inability to defend set pieces and his inability to have another game plan. Look at Unai Emery. I've bigged him up for the last 2.5 years. Last night, tactically outclassed. Home and away against Olympiacos. Because Unai Emery's plan B still did not work. It didn't work. It was completely outclassed. They lost every header in the box. Their number 9 bullied both the centre-backs. But look at the leaps and bounds that Unai Emery's given Aston Villa. He's taken them from where they were to being in the Champions League within, 18 months? And they've given him a lot of money. They went out and spent 50 million on Diaby, 40 million on Bailey. They got rid of Deadwood. It's going to take, for Ange Postecoglou to be a success, it's going to take another 2 years.
Can I ask you a question, Henry? What does that mean, though? But before, I want to come in after you've done this, but when we're saying a success and how many windows, to what? To win something?
Yeah.
Or
because let's be honest, if we go into the FA Cup,
what's the...
If we go into the Europa League
you can win the FA Cup if you get a favourable draw and you're not faced with massive injuries when those ties come along.
I don't mean favourable draw. I mean being... I'd
argue it's far more difficult to finish third in the Premier League than it is to win the Carabao Cup, because you have to all of the variables of the season kind of all equal itself out over the course of 38 games. But if you just get super lucky
I get that. We need another 2. I'm not talking 2 summer transfer windows to get rid of a lot of this dead wood. Until that's done, we can't compete with Arsenal. Forget Man City, because we are miles away. And we are probably miles away from Arsenal to a degree. But Arteta's had...
Not to a degree. Not to a degree,
yeah.
Henry.
It's not to a degree. Henry, have you still got that thing that you put up a minute ago? Because Savva made the point about if any manager loses 8 on the bounce, he's got to go.
Arteta's had 5 summer windows. They got rid of Aubameyang. They got rid of Ozil. They got rid of Lacazette. All the negativity in that dressing room, they got rid of.
When did this happen?
This was 2.5 seasons ago.
This is when his first season or his second season?
This was his second full season. They finished 8th. So
was this during COVID?
No, that's the season after. So the first full season, he come in the December. They won the FA Cup. First full season, finished 8th. Second full season out of COVID, that's this full season. Third full season, last season. Fourth full season, this season. So he's had, this summer will be his 5th summer transfer window. They've gone and dropped 100 million on Rice, 65 million on Havertz, right? They've spent 640 million pounds. I would argue,
not that much more than Tottenham, right? Sorry, just quickly, Henry. Not that, like, Arsenal and Tottenham's revenues are relatively similar. If one team's out of Champions League and the other team's in it, then that team who's in it will have a higher revenue. When both teams are in the Champions League, it's about the same, right? And Arsenal have spent on average only £10 million more per year net than Tottenham have since 2017. I know they're front loading a little bit of risk now, and we had this conversation yesterday, but Arsenal went through the building process during this run here where they brought in those players like Ben White, like Ramsdale, whatever, like, you know, like the Odegaards, who've turned into good players, but they weren't able to buy. I know they bought Pepe, you know, that's a mistake, but they weren't able to buy the Declan Rices. Go on, mate. Sorry.
Emery signed Pepe. Emery brought in Martinelli. He in one season, I think he spent 140 million pounds on his players. But the point I'm making is Arteta was given the time to get rid of the deadwood. Can you honestly say Ange Postecoglou is going to be given the time to get rid of Ndombele, Joe Rodon, Jed Spence? He won't. The minute we finish 8th and we're further away from that Champions League position, we all know what's happening. I don't think that we all said in the summer we wanted to see a somewhat process. We're roughly where everyone thought we would be, 5th. That doesn't excuse Ange Postecoglou for being tactically naive and being us battered the last 4 games and having some absolutely diabolical performances. But until he gets these actual, I guess you could say, ingredients, we're going round in circles, and we're going to have another manager in the summer. Then we're going to be thinking, okay, is he going to actually get backed? Like the players we've brought in, James Maddison, I think we all expected more this season from Maddison. Let's be honest. He's been hot and cold, right? I don't think the system is suited for him. He's having to drop way too deep. I think Son in this system is absolutely useless, right? He finds himself on the edge of the box a lot of the time. He's not the sort of player to take a strike. His best attribute is running for on goal. So Ange has got to be sitting there. He has got to find ways of getting more out of these players. But at the same time, a lot of these players just aren't at the level. Like Timo Werner. If we sign him permanently in the sum of 15 million euros or whatever it is, yes, it's a low, cheap signing. And yes, we're in 4 competitions next season. Yes, we're going to be playing Thursday, Sunday. But we all know his qualities aren't at the level to be playing in the Champions League next season.
But Henry, can I just come in off the back of that? I hear this a lot, right? I hear a lot of, oh my God, but look how long it took Arteta. Look how long it took Klopp. Look at the huge difference between look how long it took Arteta and look how long it took Klopp is those are managers that are allowed to go and buy top quality footballers. Those are managers that you look at Arsenal. Arsenal actually changed their ownership structure, didn't they? Very early on in the Arteta building phase. And completely changed the way that they ran as scouting, the way that they ran with director of football, and the type of players that they were bringing in. The problem with Tottenham, that's never changed. That's never ever changed.
It's changing though. It's changing.
I don't see it's changing at all. I think it's exactly the same. I'm going to tell you why.
Sorry guys,
Spurs have signed 9 players in the Ange Postecoglou reign so far. Now, we could have the debate all day long. I think it's pointless having the debate of club player. They were club signings, manager signings. I don't care about all that. All I care about is of the 9 signings that Postecoglou has had in his time here, it's all exactly the same as whatever we've done before. Couple of different players.
There's a reason for that.
But I don't think there is, Sean. We just look.
How do you buy a world-class player?
I'm not saying world class.
Not a world-class player, but are you advocating for buying better quality players than we are?
Much better quality players.
Okay, but that inevitably comes with higher prices, right? Generally speaking.
Damn right. Well, okay. not always. Not always.
I know, but like you'd argue that Micky Van De Ven at 40 million quid 5 years ago would get you a top-class player, not a world-class player, but a top-class player.
Yeah.
40 million quid today gets you a good prospect that's proven himself in a different league.
Or a Cole Palmer or a Mohamed Kudus.
Yeah, but Kudus was a similar style to Micky Van De Ven, as much as young, proven himself in a junior league, but a lot of risk. The guy comes in and does really well. Cole Palmer, of course, is a brilliant standout who, has just blown everybody's mind away. But in reality, yes, you can always compare. Did we pick the right player, Brennan Johnson versus Kudus? All of us, I'm sure me and you, I remember talking about Kudus all summer. He went to West Ham and he didn't even look like he had that they had competition for his signature. So mistakes in terms of that. But what I would say is, generally speaking, when you're talking about buying better players, like much better quality, you're talking about much bigger numbers. Generally, I know there's always exceptions to the rule. And the point I would always make is, when you have to bring in 9 players in one summer, you're not going to be able to buy 9 top quality players.
So here's my point. I'm so glad you said that. This is my point. I keep watching all these shows where all I see is people going, we need 7 or 8 players in the summer. We got 7 or 8 last summer, 7 or 8 the year before, 7 or 8 the year before that.
Because of the managerial merry-go-round and the pivot philosophy, right?
I don't believe that. I don't believe that, right? I'm not saying Spurs never buy a good player. Of course they do. But every time Spurs go and get 7 or 8 players in a window, how many of them come good, right?
Yeah, not enough. Not enough. I agree.
Not even 50%, not even 30% for me ever come good, right? And the problem is, everyone's going, let's go and get. I've seen people saying we need 4 new forwards, we need 2 new midfielders, we need backup fullback, we need a backup goalkeeper. Great. Okay, go and sign 8 players again this summer, and you're going to buy 8 players who are average because of the money
you're going to buy 8
spread
million
across 8
players.
footballers.
Yep.
So what I would like to see, right? What I would like to see is one window where we go, right, okay. I mean, how much did we spend last summer? 160, 170? I don't know.
You take out Kulusevski and whoever it was that we signed permanently.
I'm not taking
Kulu out. You can't take them out, right? But like generally speaking, we spent about 600 million quid in the last 4
No, but last summer.
150 million, I think it was.
Right, okay.
Like
and the year before that with Conte was 150, 160. Million, yeah. Right, okay. My point is this. If we really had a plan, if we really had a process, and if we really wanted to show that this is a plan where it is going to, not in 1 year, because that's ridiculous, but over the next few years, you're going to try and close the gap to Arsenal, who aren't even at City's level, and then to City, which I'm guessing is what the teams have to try and do. Go and buy 3 or 4 quality players. I didn't say world class. Go and buy 3 or 4 quality players that come straight in to the first team and make that first team immediately better, right? Immediately better. Then go and do it the next window as well. 3 or 4 that are quality players. What we do, we keep doing this. Look at last summer. Van De Ven is a rip-roaring success, right? James Maddison.
Let's look at last summer. Who are the players that improved the first team, and who are the players that haven't?
Vicario.
I mean, I think Vicario's been okay. Vicario's been okay. We say he's improved, but there's been a lot of goals which are on him in corners. I'm not having a go at him, by the way.
Maddison.
Maddison, for me, this manager does not play him right at all.
Yeah, but everybody on every we can't play Monday morning quarterback. Everybody was on board Bissouma when we signed him. Every single fan, no matter your stance on
I agree.
No matter your stance on the manager, no matter your stance on whatever, everybody went, Bissouma, 25 million, bargain. That's a fucking game changer. Anybody saying that Bissouma was terrible. Now everybody's saying, we can't sign players like Bissouma.
I don't think Bissouma's terrible.
I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying...
No. But the thing is, there's a difference, Sean, right? First of all, I don't think this manager's getting the best out of many of these players. If we're going to be brutally honest, I think Bissouma is in no way, shape or form a defensive midfielder. He wasn't that for Brighton. I don't know why we're playing him there. James Maddison is playing in a position here where, and I love James Maddison. You know, Henry, we talked for years that I wanted James Maddison at this football club. And I think he's a brilliant footballer.
Everybody was on board with him. And now people are going, well, you know what? Ange isn't working because we can't score goals. Well, guess what? James Maddison, the guy that everybody was waxing lyrical going, thank God that, again, not you, Savva, just I'm saying, I'm talking in generalizations here.
Yeah.
Everybody was saying, Savva, everyone was saying, Maddison, awesome. Tick.
Yeah, I
well done, brilliant.
I think he
comes in, starts the season incredibly. And then through a combination of either, depending on how you want to see it, struggling to return from injury, or the fact that the pivot in defensive approach to how to play against us has crowded him out, or that he hasn't played in the system that is low block all the time against him. Whatever, all of a sudden, everyone's not talking about Maddison as being a successful signing anymore.
Hang on, I didn't say he wasn't. For me, those opinions on James Maddison are reactionary. I watched this formation, right? And James Maddison had his best success at Leicester when he was in a settled midfield three where they all knew their job. And Ndidi was the holding midfielder, right? I don't like doing 6, 8s and 10s. And Ndidi was the holding midfielder. Tielemans was your more generic, get back and forward, grab a couple of goals, that bloke. And James Maddison had the freedom behind Jamie Vardy to pull the strings, pass the ball out
and
wide to the wingers.
Most teams didn't play low block against him.
Right.
So he had the space, right? He had space.
Yeah, but hang on, Sean. But the problem is at the moment, Spurs play a formation where both fullbacks drift into the midfield where he is.
Mm-hmm.
One of the two centre mids is always in where he should be as well. The two wingers invert, they're in there. So when James Maddison, you watch James Maddison when he gets the ball, the first thing that man always does is looks up. And he's got someone 5 yards away, 5 yards away, 5 yards away, 5 yards away. He's got no width to hit at all.
Right, which is why he's coming deep now to get the ball. But when has James Maddison ever been someone who controls the tempo of the game from the halfway line? That's not his game.
Agreed. That's my point, Sean. So my point is, my point to this was, I think Van de Ven.
We signed a great player, but for the wrong system, essentially. Yeah.
Well, I think that he's a great player. I think he will do very, very well at Spurs. I think Van de Ven's been a rip-roaring success. Vicario, yeah, he's good. He's okay. Other than that, I think the rest of them. I think Kulu is shocking. Udogie was the year before, wasn't he? Udogie's okay. Udogie's a good player.
But I think Kulu's got to be moved into the midfield. His numbers in terms of take-ons, ball carries, shots at goal. I think he's had one shot on target in the last 8 games, which for a wide player, it's not for me. I think he's got. I think if you're gonna play him, if you're gonna keep him, you've got to move him into the midfield. His best attribute is he's dragging the ball out of tight spaces. He's like we know.
You're not going to sell Kulusevski. We just signed
put him into the midfield then, because I know
that sums it up, Sean. I've heard that about Solomon. Right, I've heard that about Kulu.
How many clubs? Again, my question mark on that though is how many clubs that are better than Tottenham at generating success sign a player in August and by next June they're out the door.
No, I agree with you. I wouldn't have signed him. I said that publicly last summer. Spurs went out in the window for me, and most of the players we've signed under Postecoglou, whether we like it or not, have failed massively, whether we like it or not. And the point why I'm saying this is we can have the conversation all day long, right, about how do we close the gap to the big clubs? Yeah. What does Ange need to be successful? The answer is simple: quality. You have to bring in quality. But the second part to that, guys, is do you trust Postecoglou knows what that quality looks like? Because I've got a feeling from what I've seen, I think that he thinks that a lot of these lesser players are good enough for what he needs to do to challenge. And I don't think
he said that. He said that, right? He said himself, he's like, he doesn't think there's that much of a difference between world class and the level below in terms of technicalities. He thinks the difference for what he looks for in a player is some sort of buy-in, willingness, mentality, and the kind of personality, the kind of I don't know, the intangibles of someone. But the question mark, of course, is he's never had to fight at this level. So maybe he's used to saying what he's talking about is the level between the very best at the Scottish League level and the next level down is not that much. As in like the C level or the B plus to the B or B minus level is not that big. But the mentality is, I don't know, but I feel like I said,
but you've got to have the quality footballer, Sean. You can have the mentality, but look, let's call it for what it is. When Spurs are spending money, we spend money. I see loads of people saying Levy doesn't spend money. We spend it. It's just constantly quantity over quality. And you know the problem with what that does? We're all sitting here right now, right? Like we were last summer going, oh my God, we've still got to get rid of Ndombele and we've got to get rid of Roden and Davis needs to go and Royal needs to go and Brian Hill needs to go. And some people want Richalison to go and Skip needs, right? The problem is when you go out and buy 7 to 9 players in a calendar year and 5 to 6 of those are very average footballers. What you're doing is getting rid of Deadwood to bring in more average footballers. So
I hear you.
All you're doing every year is collecting Deadwood. Brennan Johnson.
But if you go and spend all of your budget on two £80 million players, those £80 million players are going to be playing alongside Harry Winks.
Yeah, but I don't think it's too, Sean, is it? Like, there's got to be a degree of being sensible here. For me, I just think we need to get to the stage where we don't have a window where there's 8 new players coming in and 2 are good, 2 are like that, 2 are young and we never know what's going to happen, and 2 are just shit. We've got to get away from this vicious cycle. We did it under Jose Mourinho. We keep doing these same things. Bring in 3 or 4 quality footballers, ready-made, not 18-year-olds, ready-made quality footballers that go straight into that 11, that make the 11 better. Yeah. Then do it again the following summer. 3 or 4, get rid of 4 or 5 Deadwood, bring in 3 or 4 that are really good. But
can I add that point quickly?
Before you do, Henry.
I'll go and get super chats.
Yeah, sorry, boy. Sorry, Savva, finish your sentence, mate, and then I'm going to come to super chats.
Yeah, I was going to say, at the end of the day, I've said this to you guys for years. I've not ever changed my stance on it. I know people are saying, oh, Savva brings up his point after the fact. I've said this to you for years. If you don't buy better quality and keep buying average footballers, this is the best we can hope for. And it's proven. We are so far away from the top clubs. It's scary. We are miles off them.
Yeah, okay. All right, listen, I hear you. I'm going to come to Henry with a different, a scenario, because I would argue that, just to count, I take what Savva's saying on board 100%. Buy better. I think that buying better quality players equals more expensive players generally. Obviously, you can maybe if you're going in the £50 million market, you might make mistakes occasionally. Maybe Johnson wasn't the guy versus someone else. Although Drew Zilla did bring in a point a minute ago, not via a super chat, that actually the output of the 2 is exactly the same. But either way, generally speaking, if you're looking for quality over quantity, it means the same budget going on fewer players because the better players cost more. And that, for me, leaves certain players that are in the squad that are not good enough. And it's a different approach to it. And I'm going to ask Henry whether or not there's a different approach where you can actually get quality and the numbers of players in by making difficult decisions around popular players like Sonny and Richalison, etc. And I'm going to come to that in a second. Before I do, Drew Zilla's gone and done the Lord's work and figured out the question I asked him about how many goals we scored in the first half versus the second half. I'm guessing that's over the entire season. 24 first half goals versus 45 second half goals. Wow. We are twice as output conversion friendly in the second half. Shout out to you, Drew. Appreciate you, mate. Always love you. Your background stuff as well in the admin world. Martin Knightsbridge, the band is back together. The triplets of negativity are here. Shout out to you, mate. Thank you very much for the super chat. The Big D, big up, fellas. Nice to see Savva back on the panel. 100%, mate. It's been a while, hasn't it? Been a while. But good to see him. Completely agree. And Drew's back in another one. Let's get the likes up for the stream, people. 100%, guys. There's 630 people here on YouTube. There's another probably 200 people on the socials. If you can, really appreciate it if you can hit the likes up, hit the subscribe if you haven't already. And I'd like to say go and get over to Football Heritage, but it doesn't exist anymore. But Henry Wright TV does, as does Henry Talks Football. On Henry Talks Football, he talks about talks about anything. Big Six stuff, basically.
Talk about Spurs on there today.
Yeah, exactly. He talks about anything that's in the Big Six, just not necessarily all Tottenham. So if you are someone who's not here around about a Tottenham fan, then go there. Also, get over to Sean Butler TV if you're interested in the FFP stuff. That's where I spend most of my time talking about that stuff, and you can find the links in the description. Also, guys, last thing I'll say, if you are on Spotify, if you do care about listening to podcasts and all these videos that I do, I upload them all to Spotify. So if you're someone who's at work and you can't watch a video but you want to listen or whatever, then Spotify's your thing. The link is in the description as well. Henry, let me ask you that question.
Before you do that, I just want to quickly bring something up, which I think people in the chat might find quite interesting.
Yeah, go on.
Bayer Leverkusen last season finished 6th. They sold their best player in Moussa Diaby to Aston Villa. Or not their best, but their most exciting player for 55 million euros. They also got rid of Mitchell Bakker, who went to Atalanta. They got rid of a cult hero in Demarabi, who went to Galatasaray. Some of the signings they made this summer. Just listen. Grimaldo, the best left back in Portugal, joined Bayer Leverkusen on a free transfer. They brought in Arthur from a team in Serie A in the Brazilian league, the Brazilian first division. They brought in Granit Xhaka, who had a fantastic season at Arsenal. for 15 million euros. They brought in Victor Boniface from the Belgium league. They took a gamble because, you know, we were looking at Gift Orban, which no one wanted either. And they signed Nathan Teller from Southampton, who were going down for 23 million euros. Bayer Leverkusen are now 49 games unbeaten and have just beaten a Bayern Munich side, which were 11 league titles on the bounce.
Also, Henry, just to add to that thing you were saying there, it's not just about the players that they sign. He found a way of getting players that a lot of people.
That's what I'm alluding to at the moment.
Yeah, Ezequiel Palacios. He was on the exit. He was going to be kicked out of Leverkusen. Before
Patrick
Xabi
Schick,
Alonso.
they wanted to sell the king of last minute goals. Bayer Leverkusen spent 81 million euros and got 69 million incoming from the likes of Moussa Diaby and that. But look what Xabi Alonso has got out of each and every single one of their players. They've just won a league title. They're 49. They've just broken Benfica's record. They're 49 games unbeaten, and they're on the verge of being the first team ever to do an unbeaten treble. So the narrative that you can't have smart signings. They brought in Borja Ilegaris from Real Betis for 1 million euros on a loan fee, right? He's played 3 different goalkeepers this season in multiple competitions. He's constantly rotated Boniface, Patrick Schick. Florian Wirtz didn't even start last night. He's probably their best player.
Yeah, wow.
That's insane.
That's incredible.
That keeps getting every ounce of juice from the squeeze in his entire 27-man squad. I don't see Ange Postecoglou getting every ounce of the squeeze out of the players we've got now. Is the quality much better? Well, Bayer Leverkusen have got a better squad, in my opinion. But the narrative that you've got to go and do 400 million quid, well, Bayer Leverkusen didn't do it. And on paper, Bayern Munich's team is far superior. Musiala, Kane, yes, they're weak at the back, right? They're terribly weak.
But also just to play devil's advocate, I know people say, well, look at the Champions League final. You know, it was almost going to be combated by 2 German teams if it wasn't for some.
Yeah, the Farmers League could have had 2 in the final.
It is still a very lopsided league in terms of 17 of the teams, 16 of the teams in there are, you know, would get relegated from the Premier League probably, right? Or
no, they wouldn't. No, mate, I watched the German league. It's so much better than everyone's doubling down on their really bad. Why would Harry Kane go to Germany? Opinions.
No, I'm not saying no. Forget all that stuff. I'm just saying that
there's some good teams out there.
If you get a great manager that comes into Leverkusen and he goes and smashes most of the teams that he's got a team that's better than anyway, tactically can outdo them, then the reason why they've gone and won the league is because, you know, Bayern Munich dropped off a little bit and they were able to get the points in those games. I just wonder whether or not, let me ask this, make it simple. You take Alonso, Leverkusen and the squad that he has, and you drop that into the Premier League, where does he finish?
Top 3.
4th, I think.
Over 38 games.
Yeah.
Top 3.
I don't think they're better than Liverpool on paper, but the one thing they have got, which Liverpool don't, is their system is everyone moves as a unit. You watch Frimpong, right? Last night, the guy was playing right wing. Right. By the way, a £34 million release clause has got Manchester City written all over it as their replacement for Kyle Walker. I'm calling that right now. By the way,
who's the player? Who's that? Sorry,
Frimpong.
Frimpong. Yeah, amazing player. Yeah.
I mean, are you picking up Grimaldo from Benfica on a free transfer? But in answer to your question, I don't think they're as strong as the front 3 in terms of Liverpool, Arsenal, and City, but they definitely are better than us and Villa. I mean, Villa couldn't beat Arsenal.
I think they'd be right there. I think they'd be right there with where Liverpool are. But look, it's all speculation, right? But if I can come into Henry's point there, Sean. Look, I agree. Look, if we get a manager or a director of football that is capable of doing that, Henry, I'm all over that. But we've seen that we're not, and I'll go back to because we've seen that when we go and do it, we spent 50 million on Brennan Johnson. 15 million on Brennan Johnson. You know, we brought in, you know, Solomon. I know he's not played a lot, but again, a bloke that couldn't really get in to a Fulham team. Like,
how many is that 11? By the way, that's not their best 11. There's no Wirtz, there's no Schick, there's no Boniface. Right? There's how many? There's no Hradecky in goal. How many of that 11 would you both take in a Spurs 11? Because I think Frimpong,
the entire back line, I think could be in our squad. I think Jonah Tah is
Not
class.
squad 11, like
11.
actual first team.
Well, okay, Tapsoba over Romero, in my opinion, I think he's a no-brainer.
Hincapie.
I wouldn't have Hincapie over Van De Ven, no chance. But for what it's worth, Tah, because he's the third choice of 3, people think he's not the same. Tah is phenomenal. He's a really, really such a monster. I like Tah. Frimpong over Porro, probably. Palacios over any one of our defensive midfielders, 100%.
Granit Xhaka over Bissouma.
All day.
Yeah,
all day.
Over any of our midfielders.
Over any of our midfielders, yeah.
Over any of them. We've got
that two midfield battle that they have there is
Let's go to their bench. Patrick Schick over Richalison. Florian Wirtz over James Maddison for me. Nathan Teller, who signed from Southampton, right? He's like their superstar. How is Xabi Alonso pulling out gems from Southampton, a relegated side?
Even Andrik's a really good footballer.
I don't know. I just think the narrative that we've got to go and drop £400 million to compete, we just need better scouts.
Well, let me ask you this though, Henry, because we're not going to change the scouts between now and the window. So let's move away from hypotheticals and let's move into reality. Savva mentioned he'd rather take the money we have and spend it on two or three better quality players than 6 or 7, for £30 million players, whatever. And I agree on principle. I think that if you are always going through the £30 million level because you need to change too much and you don't have enough money, then I 100% agree that you're never going to progress. Okay, it's just reality. Unless you have to get very lucky or get everything right, and that just doesn't happen. But there's another alternative. There is another alternative of how you take your budget from 120 million and you turn it into 250 million. And then you can go and get 5 players that are top class. But that requires a very brave decision regarding selling your second top class. You just lost Harry Kane, your best striker that the club's ever had. And Sonny's the second best striker that we've had in our lifetime, probably, right? Or one of them, or forward line. Right, somewhere he's up there. He's up there.
He's top 5 forwards because you got like Shinoda and Bow and whatever. Yeah.
Forget about the.
We will disagree, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say. Yeah. So he scored 23 GA or whatever this season. Guy's 32 in a month or two's time. Increasingly, to me, doesn't look like a player that fits in the 9 in a low block team. Back to goal is rubbish. Increasingly, looks like he's not as quick as he was at taking players on. But there is, and obviously, considerations around shirt sales and tourists coming in and all that stuff and tours to Korea. So of course there's a kind of opportunity cost, but if you don't sell him now, you're never going to sell him. If Saudi Arabia came in, if they couldn't get hold of Mo Salah, if Mo Salah says, sorry, I'm not going to come over and be your big brand, Sonny could be. Is it
Salah's apparently not going either. Like Salah
said no, right? Salah wants to stay and be a part of it.
He wants to do 1 year under slot.
So is there any logic to the idea that selling Sonny could be the difference of putting up your budget from 120 to 200 million and then giving you what you need to rebuild for the next 7 years, not holding on to something that is a dying asset? As much as I love him, he's still valuable, and I'm not saying anything bad about him.
No one's bigger than the club, though. Like no player will ever be bigger than the club. If we can sell Harry Kane, we can quite easily sell Son. I think Tottenham will spend an absolute maximum, and I mean this is pushing every boundary possible, £120 million. I think net will spend 100 million, right? I can see a world which Richarlison goes to Saudi Arabia this summer. I don't think he is the striker that a lot of our scouts and internal team at Spurs thought he was going to be. I think Richarlison, there's probably a 48% chance he leaves Tottenham this summer. And I reckon the Saudis, looking at what they've played for the likes of Koulibaly, Mendy, you could probably squeeze a £40 million bid out of a Saudi Arabian team, right?
Yeah.
I also think a Saudi team with the market, the actual image rights and the marketing Son's got, you could probably squeeze around the same sort of fee. I know he's got.
I think you could probably get 80 million quid. I honestly think.
I don't know. He's got a year left on his contract.
Yeah, but Harry Kane did, and to Saudi Arabia.
Harry Kane at the time was world class.
Yeah, but to Saudi Arabia, it's about branding. It's about filling the stadiums. It's about something else. It's not about value for money. It's about, can I find a way to bring 50,000 people to the stadium in Saudi Arabia? It's about something different. There's no way.
It's not quality. It's more like actual global audience. I think
it's something else. There's different intentions with the Saudi Arabian viewpoint on spending money. To me, Sonny into Saudi Arabia to them brings 20 million tourists into their country. It promotes them on a global level. The sports washing thing, all of that stuff is kind of byproduct benefit.
I think you can get 100 million for the both of them. Let's say
you get
in
more.
a hypothetical world, you get 120 million.
Brazil's number 9 and South Korea's David Beckham into Saudi Arabia. I think you could get 120. I think Daniel Levy could ask for 120 million for a double deal. Again, hypothetical. And then what? Then you've got the budget you need, right? Then you can go and like.
Do you think Tottenham will go and replace Son's 23 goals a season or 23 goals in a season? Because I see a world in which none of our forward line are actually safe. Brian Hill, let's be honest, he's going to go. I think Timo Werner, big question marks. He's going to get made permanent. Solomon,
I don't want to sign him.
I don't think Solomon will play another game at Spurs. Right, then you look on the right-hand side. Kulusevski is not a winger. Right, Johnson won't go because we've just paid 50 million quid for him. Richalison, big questions over Saudi Arabia. So the only one that's practically safe in terms of being a forward next season is Brennan Johnson. If we have 200 million pounds, we need to adopt a similar thing that Arsenal did.
What do you do with it?
Well, look what Arsenal did. They brought in Kai Havertz, Declan Rice, and a player that can play DM, left back, right back, centre back in Timber. That is a similar thing that Tottenham need to do. The problem is we need. But they don't need
exactly right. They didn't need. They already did the hard work in Arteta's season 1, 2, and 3. Like last season was about making the difference between an outside title chance to a genuine one. And this year they don't need 4 more players. They only need 1, maybe 2. They need Alex Isak, and they'll have the money to pay for him. And that could be the difference between the 10 more goals and the 6 more points that they need to go that next level. Tottenham. If you're going to go and try and get the 5 players that you need, then you're going to sell Sonny and Richarlison, it becomes 6 players anyway. But then you can do it, but it's massive risk. And does Tottenham have any track record of spending money wisely? When we've had money, we've always pissed it up the wall, right? We're like someone who's won the lottery who's got a cocaine, dependency.
Let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. If Tottenham are going to do an 80 million pound player, hypothetically, what position would you do it? Or would you bring in an elite number 9 who can score 25, 30 goals in all comps? Would you bring in dare I say it, Rodri type? By the way, how he wasn't nominated for the player of the year, whatever, is disgrace.
Mad.
Right? Or would you bring in a Rodri? Or would you bring in, a number 10 who could, I don't know, a Florian?
If you're buying a world-class player this summer in that world where you sold Sonny and Richarlison, I think you need to go and spend it on a number 9 who brings in
Or would you bring in an elite stay for 40 million and a Santiago Jimenez for 40 million and kind of get the 80 million that way?
Sam, I'll let you answer, mate. I've just got to go. The doorbell's ringing. I'll be back in 1 second.
It's elite say, but I think he's got a 37 million pound release clause. There's going to be 15 clubs lining up for that.
Yeah, I can assure you. I keep seeing people say, just get Elise. That boy's going to have some suitors all over the place.
You get Eze though, because he's.
I think I keep hearing a lot of talk about us getting Eze, and I love Eze. Eze's great if fit, but we can't just get an Eze, right? There's so much more in this system that needs to be addressed, and this is the problem, Henry. We've spent so much money in the last 2 years, and still weak up front, still weak in central midfield, and still playing wing backs at fullback. So it's kind of like this is listen, whether or not it's going to be Ange, that's a completely different conversation. But to get this right, it's going to take years. Because
do you think this system, the way we're playing with the fullbacks, would have been better under a Conte system?
No, this system won't ever work. This system
could have had a back three of Van De Ven, Romero, and Dragusin. You could have the wing backs as Porro and Udogie. You could have Maddison in the 10 and 2 up front.
So not this system, but these players.
Sorry, these players.
Yeah. See, now, if Conte, not Conte, if we had a manager like an Alonso, now the way he plays with wing backs, Henry, Porro and Udogie would be brilliant.
That back three doesn't move though,
and you put the back three in. Yeah, problem is we've got
just sits there on the halfway line, so that you can't be countered. That's the idea of it.
Problem is we've got 2 wing backs being asked to play fullback, and it shows. Unfortunately, it does show. You got two players both inverting. You got 2 centre halves that I feel for them. I do feel for them, but look, to go back to the point that we were talking about with if you sell Sonny or whatever, the problem is, Sean, I think a lot of the fans wouldn't want to sell Sonny because we are very emotionally attached to footballers.
And the chairman's not going to do it.
The chairman's not going to do it because of the financial attachment to the player. But this is what bigger clubs will do when a player gets to that side. Listen, Sonny's had a decent season. For me, I feel like we're getting to the stage with Sonny, though, that when he's not scoring a goal,
he's not contributing,
which is becoming less and less, his contribution and his build-up play, it's starting to get to the point where nearly everything's breaking down on him, guys. It goes into his feet, and it's not the right game for him. And I'll throw this back. I don't think we can have it both ways. If people want Postecoglou to stick with this tactic, you can't stick with 100%.
If you buy into,
you can't have both.
Ange, you've got to be willing to let Son go. 100%.
100%. Just quickly.
Go on.
Sorry, just Henry, just really, really quickly. I just want to address one person in your chat who said a few things. I just want to address them. I've got to. So this CW in the chat that said, Sav confidently saying this system will never work. Remember, everyone, Sav knows better than Ange, who's whenever he's gone, and Ange has taken us to 5th. First and foremost, these are YouTube channels, right? If we're going to say this, are we saying that anytime we question a signing that none of us know anything at all because we're questioning a manager? Second of all, Ange has been to Scotland, Australia, and Japan, my friend. Right? It's very different to playing Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, and Aston Villa, for example. And secondly, Ange has taken us to 5th. Right? So what? What am I meant? Sorry, guys. What am I meant to do with that? 5th.
It's only it's one season though. Listen, CW, I think that
I don't get it.
Yeah, I think the first point is pertinent that you made, Sam. Like CW, this is a YouTube channel. This is the whole point of having the fan channel. It's to discuss our opinions on what's going on at the football club. And if every time there was something going wrong, the answer was always, well, Ange knows better, and we wouldn't have anything to talk about. It doesn't mean that we're right. It just means that it's our take. It's just Savva's take, my take, just Henry's
CW
take,
can't see what Spurs Talk Show's doing. You can step off Danny Emirates. It's as simple as that.
No. Shout out to you, CW. It's all good, mate. It's all good. Everyone's entitled to opinions. Savva's entitled to his opinion about Ange, and CW's entitled to his or her opinion about Savva. Anna Dawes, thank you so much for the super chat. I didn't see it come in. Sorry, it was a while back. Nice to see you all. Nice to see you. Hope you're all well. We are, I think. I am critical of Ange. I'm not Ange out. I think it's too early, really, for that. He's had a major jump in expectations from previous jobs. He has, and I also think that Savva made a really good point earlier that I think he said he was borrowing from Kuva. That I think the expectations pivoted very quickly in the Tottenham fan base, as they always do, because of the start. If the start happened later, or for example, if we hadn't played the top 4 teams that are very difficult to play away from home and Arsenal at home in consecutive fashion, if Arsenal away had been dropped in January somewhere, Newcastle away dropped in February, Chelsea away was back in August, I don't think we would be worried too much. I think it would all be part of the process. But the fact that it's all coming to a head at the same time at the end of the season relative to the start of the season, people are assuming those things. But thank you very much for the super chat. So look, guys, just last question, then we'll round off in a few minutes. The question of the show was, how does Tottenham back Ange this summer? I think the Sonny thing, whilst it's an interesting experiment, a thought experiment, I don't think it's going to happen. With the rest of the players that are up for sale, that are more realistic, Richie, Bentancur, Kulusevski, Bissouma, Davies, Solomon, Brian Hill, how much money do you realistically think we're going to be able to raise? And what do you think? Let's assume that the kind of net budget before that is 110 million, just for argument's sake. 110 plus sales equals what? Who do you see leaving? And then how do you spend it? And that's where we'll kind of finish off. And I'll start with you. Go on, Henry. You want to go first?
I think in terms of outgoings, if Bentancur, Bissouma, I think if Leeds win the playoffs, you could probably get 5-10 million for Roden. Reguilon, Lo Celso. I think you could probably, in terms of not what I think they're worth, But in the market, you could probably get £80 million for a lot of those players combined. Like if Richalison, you could get 40 million loan from Saudi. Bissouma, I could see him joining a team like maybe Juventus, La Liga team, a bit more of a slower paced league. I reckon you could probably get 100 million in terms of player, a lot, but you got to sell 8 or 9 players. Are we going to do that? I don't know. But in terms of this question, hypothetically, straight away, we need to improve on creativity. Eze, if there's a player that's going to be now,
there's so much kind of noise that in the background there's a lot of twerking going for him. Do you think Eze is going to be a Tottenham player next summer?
He's changed his agency, hasn't he? So he changed his agency back in February to be part of this CAA-based limited agency, which is what 73% of our squad is, or whatever it is, 75% of our squad is. You saw the way he was at full time in the Crystal Palace game, which we won. Great free kick by him. You could have him and Maddison competing for. You could effectively play one on the Thursday night, one on the Sunday in the Europa League. I'd bring in him. I'd bring in a defensive-minded player, someone that can play this number 6 in an anchor role. Because out of position, we go to the back 2, but we need someone sitting in front. Our own Rodri. Probably spend 50 million quid there. That puts it up to what? Let's say you spend 50 million on Eze. You got 100 million quid left. You need to bring in a number 9. Have to bring in a number 9. Like whether it's Santiago Jimenez. I don't think Vlahovic is realistic. I think he's going to be 80 million euros. I don't see us doing that. Ivan Toney is the one, in my opinion, we should be signing, but he's going to have bigger fish in the pond. Ollie Watkins is not realistic. Isak's probably going to go to Arsenal. I see someone in the fan base saying, let's have a punt on Julian Alvarez. He's not going to leave treble or double winning Manchester City to join us, and he's probably a £100 million player in the market. We do need to bring a number 9 in. Who that guy is, I don't know. Santiago Jimenez. Do you take a punt on him? Do you look at someone like Sesko from Leipzig? Do you look at someone like Patrick Schick?
I love Sesko. I literally go out of my way. I go out of my way to dial into Leipzig's highlights just to see that guy play. His movement is so cool.
So if you brought in Sesko, I don't think Sesko's a 20-goal season striker, though. I think he's a 10 to 12-goal season striker. You need to bring in Sesko and have someone else. Like because you got to remember, if we're playing in 4 comps next season,
he's super young. I think he's got so much growth in him. That guy. I think he's.
Let's say you do. I don't know. For argument's sake, you do 45 million on Sesko. So you do 50 million on Eze, 50 million on DM, and 45 million on Sesko. So you got 50 million to play with. We've got to sort out these wire problems. We're gonna have to do we'll have to do a couple of loans in there of options to buy. Like I see a lot of people saying get Elise. I think if Chelsea are going to sign a player, it's written all over it right there. They'll have Palmer in the 10, Madueke on the left because Mudrik's trash, Elise, and then Jackson. We're going to have to bring in a couple of loan players. Whether I can see a world in which we make Werner permanent. Zubimendi, I mean, Real Madrid are looking at him because Camavinga could probably be going.
Don't get many better DMs than Zubimendi, but he's a double pivot guy. But you know what? I think in the single pivot, when you've got fullbacks that invert, we could play. And when you've got fullbacks, you're almost a triple pivot at times with the fullback. So,
what like Danny Olmo, another one from Leipzig, he's probably going to be £60 million player. Like Xerxes from Bologna, another one. I don't think that they're going to let him go. They're going to be in the Champions League next season. They're going to want 100 million euros. I'd look at someone at Roma. Like now they've just like there's a couple of players at Roma like a Pellegrini. I know they don't really do well. The Italian, there isn't too many of the Italians that have come to Prem and done well, and it's quite hard to get rid of them. But there's a lot like Spinazzola, like a fullback that can play both on the left and on the right. Pellegrini, Mancini, like even someone like Tammy Abraham. Our fan base go, "Oh no, not him." If you said Tammy Abraham,
I think he's a really good player.
If you brought in a Tammy Abraham and a Sesko next season, along with another forward, and then you got Son if he does or doesn't go, like. It's not that bad. Like people are saying, getting Gorakes from Sporting, another £100 million player. We're not going to do that.
I'm sorry. Like there's something about Goikarez or however you say his name. I can't sit there and see us drop 70 million on a player that you could have picked up for 3 million about 2 years ago from Coventry.
It's like Casado though. We could have got Casado for 28 million, and now he's over 100 million. I also can see a world in which Jack Grealish is on the market this summer.
Yeah. I'd like him. I've changed my mind on him. You mentioned that about 4 months ago, and I was like, nah, he's too much of a kind of piss around.
Yeah, he's got to play in the 10 for us. We can't play him out wide. Not in this system. Yeah, if he played out wide in this system, he'd be absolutely irrelevant. He'd have to play in the 10. But Problem is, he's on 230 or grand a week. Is he going to take a pay cut?
We got the lowest wage turnover. We got the lowest wage to turnover ratio in the Premier League. I think it's 46%.
Another one like Gibbs White as well. Gibbs White will be available. If we brought in Eze, Gibbs White, a number 6 and a striker, that's the perfect window.
All right. Love that, Emery. Savva, waiting patiently to tell me all the superstars you want to see Tottenham go for. Let's play the same game. We sell a few. Who do we sell? How much do we raise? Where do we spend it?
I mean, there's many I would sell. It just depends on how much you'll get for them. I mean, for me, Lo Celso can go, Ndombele can go, Sessegnon can go, Roden can go, Davis can go, Royal can go, Brian Hill, Ollie Skip. I don't care if any of our centre mids aren't here next year. I think they're all very, very painfully average.
What do you think if we were to sell Skip? Like,
how much we get for him?
Ipswich? No, like in terms of
I see him joining a club that gets promoted or a team fighting down the bottom there. Look, there's loads of players I would get rid of. It just depends on who wants to buy them, right, and how much we get for them. Equally, we've got to factor into next season that we've got Europe. So I can't see us getting rid of loads of players because you're going to need a squad. And let's be fair, we haven't dealt well with playing once a week or once every 2 weeks lately. God knows how Ange is going to deal with playing Thursday night, Sunday when we look tired playing once a week. So that's why I don't think many will go. Look, I won't give you loads of names. I think a lot of the names Henry said would be great. I think this will really pee off loads of people. Wouldn't be me if I didn't do this. I don't trust Ange's talent ID. I don't trust it. I don't think that a lot of the players that Henry mentioned there and that you mentioned that are really good players, I don't think he'll want some of them players.
Can I ask you something on that, Savva? Can I ask you something? Do you think we need to adopt a Michael Edwards, some of the top directors of football that are sporting directors? Do we need to adopt an approach where you give Michael Edwards complete control? He will rebuild Liverpool like he did in the first place. And
who's our Michael Edwards?
He was our director of football when.
I'm saying who is our Michael Edwards? Is it Johan Langer or is it Paratici? Who's the guy who's pulling the strings at the moment?
Johan Langer. Paratici, consultant.
Yeah, but he's not a consultant. We're constantly linked to his signings in Italy, so he's not a consultant. He's very much pulling the. He's very much.
He is just on paper. He's a consultant. Would you give to Christian to both of you? But obviously, have your answer first. Do you give complete control to Langer and just say to Ange, you are the coach, kind of like what Liverpool done with Slot? Because I don't think it's fair on Ange saying, what do you think of Brennan Johnson? When, let's be honest, unless Ange is a Guardiola and awake giving Iron Robin tactics until 4 o'clock in the morning, he's not watching Brennan Johnson every minute of the day, is he?
No. Of course. I think, look, the difficulty here is we've got no data to suggest that Ange has ever done this before. We know Ange has never done this before at this level. That's my concern. So far from what I've seen in his signings, Henry, we can play the game. As I said earlier, we can play the game all day. Who bought them? Was it this person? Every time a player comes in that does well, we say manager wanted him. Every time a player does badly, it's a club signing. So far, a lot of the players that Ange has bought in, I think are really, really bang average to poor. I want to see what he does this summer. And if he doesn't want a Brennan Johnson, I want him to turn around and go, no, I don't want Brennan Johnson. I need better. Otherwise, we can keep backing these players. I've seen it all year. We've backed really, really poor players. We are where we are, and we are so far behind. We're as far behind as we were because the quality of players isn't good enough. So for me, I'll see who we bring in this summer. But I do think that, Henry, I think we need somebody who's got great standing in the game to come in and build the players in there for Postecoglou, because so far, I can only say so far, I've not really been enamoured with anything he's done other than Van De Ven and Maddison in the transfer window. I've not really. I said it at the time. I'm not being a hypocrite. I think you all agree. I said last year, didn't want Kulu, didn't want Brennan Johnson. Valise and Phillips. What's the point? They're not going to play. Didn't want Solomon.
I think Valise will be sold. Not this summer, but the following summer.
Quickly, breaking news, I think, out of I can't see it. It's from The Guardian. I did a video yesterday about Everton and their problems. I said, if they don't get the 777 partnership thing agreed and approved, they're bust. looks like they're going to be put into administration if that's rejected.
Look at Braithwaite. If he comes on the market,
that's why I said in the video yesterday, right? Like Tottenham are looking for another left-sided centre back. Look, Micky Van De Ven. If you're going to run Micky Van De Ven as much as you do, all over the last 38 games, 41 games, whatever we played this season, and you see him when he stretches his legs and he makes that sliding tackle, and he's 70 minutes in, he's feeling his calves, he's feeling his hamstrings. It's already pinged twice. Yeah, that to me, as much as I love the guy, you are asking so much of one person to get us out of trouble. When if he goes down again, and he will, he will next season, and you need a left-sided centre back. Branthwaite for me, I think he ticks every box. And if you can go into Mashiri at Everton and say, first of all, you need to get ahead of the 30th of June deadline, because otherwise you're going to breach FFP again next season. Second of all, Tottenham should have FFP advantage over other teams that might be looking at him. They have to sell before they can buy. Tottenham don't. Go and I don't know. Do you go and pull Everton out of a rabbit out of the hat for Everton situation? Here's 70 million quid. Give us Andre Onana in the 6 and Jared Branthwaite, or 60 million quid. Really push the boundaries. Do you like Andre Onana? I think he's a really good player on his day. I just think he's inconsistent. But when he's got to play on two, though,
he'd have to play. You'd have to play Bissouma and him. Having him as a lone 6, it would be like Bissouma and he'd get swallowed up. The only lone 6 I see in the Premier League that would be available that could play the role is Paulina, and he's going to be 100 million. Everyone else is kind of in a 2 or can play in a balanced 3. Our system is such. It's kind of like Bayer Leverkusen, but our back 3 doesn't have the structure of Bayer Leverkusen. And when they play it, they have the 3 sitting there and then 2 in front, so they can't be countered. So,
I meant Amadou Onana. But what I would say is this idea of not having a single pivot, but I think you can go and identify someone who's used to playing in a double pivot. Like Zubamendi plays a double pivot, but I think with the fullbacks inverting, if you just ask one of them not to get up into the 10 and just sit in the second pivot, then I think you can almost get a person who's a double pivot merchant, because he's going to play with the support of a Porro or a Udogie or whatever in the double 6.
I think if the manager's more flexible, Sean, you can go and get so much more.
At the moment, you're not a fan of Branthwaite, no?
Yeah. I like Branthwaite. I think I definitely have Branthwaite. Would Branthwaite want to come to Tottenham? He must be looking and seeing that Dragushin's been given 1 start in 5 months and think, why would I?
That was actually against Everton, that start.
Right, it's got to be a concern, though, Henry. It's got to be a concern. You know, we've been turned down by Tosin Adebayo. If I'm a centre-back, I'm looking and going, this manager don't play anyone. But, look, to your point on Van De Ven, Sean, spot on. My biggest issue is...
He's going to be ran into the ground if we're not...
17 sprints from having a breakdown.
We've got a tactic... We've got a tactic that relies wholly on one player being fit. Right?
Yeah.
Without Van De Ven this year,
he's out, Ange out, sort of thing. Yeah,
I reckon we'd have conceded 15 more than we have, because that man has single-handedly.
I'd gotta say more.
I agree.
Okay, possibly more, but every time he does one of them tackles, as Sean said, I go, "Oh my god! Oh, is he holding this? Is he holding his calf? Is it his hamstring?" He'll have his career ruined if we keep playing this way and relying on him. He's a brilliant footballer. I think he's one of the best signings we've made. I think he could go on to be a top centre half, but not if we keep exposing him the way we are.
I agree. Lads, we're gonna round it off there. I really appreciate you coming on, Savva. Great to have you back, Henry. Always good to have you. Henry, anything coming up on Henry Talks Football or on Henry Wright TV for the rest of the day, the weekend? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm debating on doing a video about the Premier League Player of the Month, or not Player of the Month, the Premier League award system, because it's flawed in so many ways. Like how Kevin De Bruyne has not won Player of the Month ever before. The fact that Virgil van Dijk was nominated for the award and Gabriel and Saliba wasn't, like how Rodri was not in there. So I might do a video on that. But if obviously Spurs play tomorrow, there'll be plenty of content. And Man City and Arsenal playing tomorrow, so there'll be plenty of football, plenty to talk about on Emery Talks Arsenal. So make sure you get over there.
Can't wait for that. Arsenal are elite. Arsenal are unbelievable.
It's going to be Arsenal are in the mud when they lose to United.
Appreciate it. Savva, are you streaming anywhere for the rest of the day? No. Done?
I'll just pop on every now and then for now. That's it.
Dotting around, pottering around. Guys, Martin, nice for his late super chat. Great show, guys. Good to see old schoolers. 100%, mate. It's great to see you. Great. Thank you, Martin. Appreciate that. And Rich has come in saying, do you see Lucas Bergvall starting next season? I'll be honest, mate, I ain't got a clue what level he's at. I don't know. It's so difficult to know that he looks like an absolute worldie when he's playing against, Swedish players. I don't know.
Just loan him to a championship team, toughen him up, because he's used to playing when no one's going in and diving challenges. Send someone like Millwall who are battling relegation and see how he gets on, because that's what we're gonna know. If he comes out with 10 goals and 15 assists in the championship, we're gonna know he's.
You've got a player there. Yeah. The problem for me though is I don't know what we promised him to get him in. What did we promise him to get him from Barcelona? And I don't want there to be a kind of a conspiracy theory that emerges amongst young players. Oh, you promised Dragusin. Dragusin kept his word. Dragusin had the late offer from Bayern Munich. He said, no, I gave my word to Tottenham. I'm going to honour it. And then doesn't get a bean of an opportunity. And then if Lucas Bergvall turns around and says, I promised Tottenham, I love Tottenham, I could have gone to Barca. And if he doesn't get any minutes because we sold him the idea of being around the first team and we loan him out to Millwall, that's sort of like
sending him to Bermondsey for 9 months.
Toughen him up, take a stab-proof vest or whatever. For me, I just feel like you have to honour your word a little bit. Otherwise, you can create a really bad reputation of being someone who does what or doesn't do what they say they're going to do, and that's a problem.
Just quickly, Sean, before we wrap up, really quickly, I think we said it at the time. Remember when Dragusin signed, and we said his agent talks a lot, and his agent's going to be a problem. Do you see it already starting to happen? His agent coming out saying, "Oh, hang on, he's not getting game time. We might have to consider things." Do you see that being an issue?
He'll be gone at the end of next season if he's not given game time.
I agree.
In the next season, if he's coming in and like all of a sudden being given one start in 5 months, like we're in the Europa League. If we beat Burnley, he's got to get 25 games next season, knowing the fact that we could pay 55. If he's not given half of those, then he's got to be sitting there going, why didn't I join Bayern Munich? But equally, if Bayern Munich...
At the same time, we needed Dragusin all year, and the second that we signed him, we didn't need him anymore. Like, you have to also bake in. We're playing 1 game a week, and as soon as he came in, Romero and Van De Ven didn't get injured at all after that. So, like, it's a little bit...
Top managers factor that in. Top managers keep... How do you think the Klopps and the Peps keep
it.
Top footballers happy all the time? Even when you've got the injuries at left back, you've got Ollie Skip coming. If you're Dragusin, are you not looking and going, hang on, you've put Ollie Skip in front of me in the back four? Like, surely. But I don't know. We'll see. But Ange's got a lot to prove to me. A lot.
Yeah, look, lots to discuss. Can't wait to see how we go in the window. Savva and Henry, last words out of your mouth. Tottenham Burnley scoreline prediction, please.
Same as I said last night, 2-1. I think Burnley will score because 3 things are guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and us not keeping clean sheets. I think 2-1. I think I can see a goal from Son and maybe a goal from Richie. But he's got to start Richie, Johnson and Son. If we see another, I think that's the only front three he can play, because I think Kulusevski's not fit and Werner's injured. So, that for me, he's got to play that front three.
Henry. Or he could give someone from the youth team a game, maybe one day.
What's Jamie Donnelly got to do to get a game?
Get a couple of minutes.
I'd like to see Santiago play instead of Johnson and Werner and Kulu. And anyway, 3-1 Spurs is what
the tea leaves are saying.
Is what it should be. Wouldn't surprise me at all if Burnley get a draw. But 3-1 should be. God forbid
we lose. Like the noise in the fan base is going to be.
Sean, if we do lose and we make it 5 in a row, right?
Yeah.
And 6 out of 8. At what point, though? I know a lot of people, like everyone's an expert on Ange. I love it. They ever go at people like me and other vocal people who pick Ange apart, but they're all experts. So the thing about Ange is he does this in year 1, this in year 2, and his 3 main attributes are boom, boom, boom. I get all that, but the problem is, Sean, if you then get to the stage where you've lost 5 in a row, one's against Burnley at home who are basically relegated, and you've lost 6 of your last 8, questions at some point have to be asked, right?
Questions are already being asked.
Can I say something? Sorry to cut you
No,
off.
but
Richarlison
massively.
has not been selected for Brazil's Copa America squad. Richarlison, Casemiro, Cunha, who's had a good season at Wolves, Gabriel Jesus are out, and the front they've taken Endrick, who's 17, Evan Nilsson from Porto, Martinelli, who's had a terrible season compared to last season, Rafinha, Rodrigo, Savinho, and Vinicius Junior. So no Neymar either. So the fact that Richarlison's been taken out of the squad, we've got more time.
He's going to have a breakdown. He's going to have a
more
breakdown.
time to sell this guy now. There's no excuse if he's going to go to Saudi because he's not got a tournament to play.
I also think that damages our ability to sell him. Saudi Arabia go, well, he's not the Brazil number 9 anymore.
Yeah, he's a Brazil number 39.
I'm terrified about what that's going to do for the poor bloke's mental health. He struggles with a lot of things and not getting in the Brazil team. He's got a tattoo of like 4 players. All of them have been dropped.
Got a tattoo of him and Neymar, and they're both in the team. Neymar's been injured since September.
Not good. To answer your question, Savva, at what point do serious questions get asked? I think, look, I mean, serious questions in the fan base can and should be asked all the time. I'm all aboard serious questions being asked. By the chairman, I would be gobsmacked if serious questions were not always being asked, but if decisions were, if there was a decision before the end of the season that he's not the guy, then if I'm entirely honest, like I would kind of go, that's a massive L on Daniel Levy's tenure. You know, I call it as I see it. I think there's lots of things that are L's in his repertoire, lots of things that are W's. I always call it as I see it. And I think that when he sacked Mourinho 3 days before a cup final, giant L, dickhead. Shouldn't have done that. If he sacks Ange at the end of the season because of 3 more losses or 2 more losses, again, giant L, because I think that you have to move into one direction for at least a couple of years. I'm on board, and other people won't be, but I am on board Ange for the medium term, regardless of what happens. Obviously, if it's just a shit show for every week going forward for the next like 6 months, 9 months, then obviously I'll have to change my thing. But right now, regardless of what happens between now and the end of the season, I'm gonna stand by him, give him what he needs in the summer.
Do you know what? Lots of people ask me, Sean, am I Ange in, am I Ange out? Do you know my answer the whole time is doesn't really matter. I'm just a fan, but I genuinely believe he will get himself sacked if he doesn't change things next season. Can't play this high line. People keep going, if you had a Rodri, you can't play this high line. It is the highest line I think I've ever seen in world football. It is. People go, City do it, and I'm like, not this.
Do you know what's interesting? Last thing I'll say. I know, Henry, you've got to go. I know you've been trying to go for 10 minutes. We're going to run off right now.
Sorry,
when you look at the high line in principle, it looks really big. When you actually compare the average positions and the heat map for Tottenham versus Liverpool, Tottenham had a lower average high line lower average position of all of the defenders and the midfielders than Liverpool did during that game. And I think it comes down to some of the data. When you look at the amount of possession we have relative to teams that have 65% possession or more, similar to us around Europe, we have a massively overweighted weighting towards touches of the ball between our defense and in our back third. Like, we have a lot of possession, but so much of it is pissing around with it in the final third. Anyway, that's for another discussion.
Cool.
Guys, we got to go. Love you all. Thank you so much for the super chats. Thank you, everyone, for the subscribes and all that stuff. Love you. We'll see you later on. I might be dropping a video later tonight. If not, you'll see me tomorrow morning. Get over to Henry Talks Football and also to Henry Wright TV. And you'll see Savva on here next week, I hope, if you're up for it, Savva. And everywhere else he goes in the summer. Everywhere he goes. We're going to leave it there, guys. Love you. Take care. See you later. Bye-bye.